As Warren Buffett has stated many times, it is best to be fearful when others are greedy. Today I'll examine some of the examples of this greed currently going on, and hopefully give you an idea of why this has always paid off for him to sit through times of greed, as well as the alarming macroeconomic indications that can be seen right now in the markets, so stay tuned. Hi everybody, welcome back to The Contrarian. For those of you who are new, my name's Logan, and I really like to talk about overall success in investing, and most of all going against crowd thinking mentality within the investing world and elsewhere. So if you want to hear more about these topics, consider subscribing, and I'll also make a disclaimer that I'm not a financial advisor, and none of this is meant to be taken as financial advice. So I'm sure you've probably heard this quote from Warren Buffett before. And on the surface, this quote might seem very simple. The exact quote is, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." And it would seem that Buffett is merely saying to not fall into laziness or lack of caution with regards to making investment decisions. And this is definitely part of what he's alluding to, but there's a lot more to this quote. In my opinion, given Buffett's track record of referring to questioning where the crowd can go during emotional times, he is probably predominantly referring to the ways your decision-making process can be affected by those around you. And I think this deserves more attention than is often given to it. For example, even though you may know quite a bit about what to look for in terms of fundamentals, and you might be able to use this knowledge to your benefit in a given environment, it is oftentimes hard to know how the crowd around you can affect you over time. And after all, many people don't just suddenly change their strategy, but it's oftentimes over a long period of time, and it's very possible for dramatic changes to happen over that long period of time without you really recognizing them. And I'll just go to a different example apart from investing. This is how you can build very positive as well as negative habits over time. I'm sure you've heard of being able to build the habit of, say, eating healthier or exercising regularly. And this habit is formed over time where you eventually want to do these activities, and it doesn't take as much willpower to eventually get into doing these activities. But this can also go the other way. Anywhere from addictions or laziness or lack of motivation or other negative habits can also be built over time without you even knowing it. It's just a kind of a gradual progression in one direction or another. And I believe that part of what Buffett is referring to in his quote is how those around you can gradually sway you in one way or the other. For example, if you want to build the habit of exercising more, it would probably be best to make it a social activity to get started rather than going about it on your own. Getting your friends involved, having it be a more fun thing for you to do. But also think of all the negative habits out there I just talked about. Drug abuse, alcoholism, laziness. Any of these can be negatively given to you as well by those you associate with. So where am I going with this? Well, it doesn't take a lot of looking around right now to see all kinds of bad decisions being made in the markets right now. People betting their entire portfolio, however small it is, on a single stock like AMC or Nokia or BlackBerry or any of these really, arguably companies that have no fundamentals under them whatsoever and that are probably heading towards bankruptcy at some point in the future. And they're doing this simply because the people that they follow on Reddit are saying to buy it, and it will therefore increase in price. And all of these recent pump and dumps we have seen have been because of this negative influence people can enact over others. And here's how it usually has played out over the last few weeks. The leaders of these trading groups on Reddit or YouTube or Facebook or wherever they are, they buy these stocks with a low float or high short interest, and then they promote them as the next, GameStop short squeeze like rally. And in doing this, they are saying that because of what happened in GameStop of a 1,000% gain in several days, that can be replicated again and again with all these other companies. So then their followers buy into these stocks, which does send the price up higher, usually not 1,000%, but sometimes close to that. And then the leaders of these groups sell out near the top while other people continue to buy. But the real problem here is that it's merely a game of musical chairs at the top, and a bunch of people will be stuck holding the bag and losing the majority of what they put in. And we've seen this with all of these pump and dump rallies recently. GameStop collapsed something like 90% from its highs, AMC significantly as well, and all these other useless stocks. And, silver kind of had a similar thing going on with it. So, bottom line is that the market right now, and in particular the dumb money, has completely lost its mind. It's basically 1999 all over again, and it's like nobody has learned anything from that time. So I've covered the more retail or dumb money side of things, but now I'll talk about some of the more macroeconomic factors that I see right now that don't bode well, in my opinion, for the coming months and definitely the coming year of 2021. And this should only give you a further sense of caution with regards to Buffett's quote about being fearful when others are greedy, because as I'll show you, greed is very rampant right now. First of all, I see the majority of analysts, hedge fund managers, and media presenting 2021 as an amazing year of economic recovery and one that will be a, quote, return to normalcy. And in fact, it's very hard to look anywhere and not hear the term of returning to normal in some way, shape, or form. And when I see these people say this, they're usually referring to the vaccine and the rapid distribution of these vaccines for COVID that is taking place, and referring to the reopening of the economy that is generally happening right now, at least in the United States. And sure, there are still some states that are locked down more than others, but in general, things are beginning to look like they are getting better. And usually where they go from there is that when the economy fully reopens, there will be all this pent-up demand that consumers will go out and spend like they were before, and maybe even more than before, because they haven't been able to, say, take a vacation or go to movie theaters or many other activities in the last several months. So bottom line is that the predominant market voices, those who are the most vocal right now, are very bullish. They are assuming that we quickly return to things as they were before, and that nothing else negative happens to impede this recovery. And now, believe it or not, this is a very risky position to be in right now, with the market pricing in this kind of optimism. And this has to do with the reason for why panic in the crowd and massive selling takes place to begin with. And usually what causes these kinds of crashes, like what occurred back in 2000 or 2008, or just last year, 2020, has to do with the market and the major people behind the market taking a significant bet or stance that turns out to be incorrect. Obviously, in 2000, that had to do with the realization that all of these, vaporware tech companies actually weren't valued at billions of dollars. They should have been valued at zero. So all of a sudden, everyone realized that they had been wrong on this major assumption, and a massive crash occurred. 2008 was essentially the same story, but with some subprime mortgages, and the market had always assumed housing was an indestructible investment, until everyone suddenly realized that giving out loans to everyone with a pulse wasn't such a good idea, and that in fact these mortgage CDOs should be valued at much less. And a similar event happened early last year. Similar to right now, the market was predominantly very bullish and assuming another great year, moving out of the trade tensions and trade wars, and then a new virus comes along and forces the world into a global lockdown. So all these crashes stem from the market as a whole being proven incorrect in an underlying assumption that was made. And whether that be from vaporware tech companies or housing or an unexpected interruption in the markets, it basically always leads to a stampede toward the exit of the theater with the entire crowd wanting to get out. And the only problem is that the exit door is small and the majority of the people inside don't get out in time, and they end up selling near the bottom of the crash that results from this stampede. So of course you're going to wonder what kind of event I'm thinking of that could crash the markets right now. And I will answer that I don't know what it could be that ends up doing this, but it could basically be anything out of the ordinary right now. It could be another increase in virus cases, virus fatalities, or a new strain, such as what we've seen in South America recently. It could be massive corporate bankruptcies and layoffs from all of the shutdowns that have occurred. It could be all of these mortgage defaults that bailout programs have essentially deferred until now. It could be a lack of consumer spending and people not actually having pent-up demand as the market is assuming. It could be new case studies revealing that the vaccines don't in fact work as effectively as they were initially showed to. So bottom line is that this immense optimism and speculation going on right now is very risky. It's just a very risky situation for the market to be in. And this is the kind of optimism and the kind of situation in which you should be very careful, according to Warren Buffett. So I hope you guys liked this video. I like to talk about investing. I like to talk about different investors such as Buffett and many others who have been very successful over time and who have gone against the crowd in terms of questioning where the crowd is going and trying to avoid mistakes that they are making. So if you like these kinds of topics, just consider subscribing, and I hope to see you again.